very warm welcome. Should Michael Masi resign from his race director duties? Of course, we had the horrible Spa Grand Prix where we saw a two-lap event and we saw Michael Masi send the drivers out in worse conditions than before. He got so much wrong at the Spa Grand Prix, in my opinion. Of course, he's got a very tough job on his hands, but it was a nightmare from start to finish for Michael Masi. And I would say it needs to be called into question because he's in control of the drivers, the fans, the marshal's safety, and he actually sent these drivers out in worse conditions than actually previous. In hindsight, the race should have been cancelled. It should have been a non-event. We go to Zandvoort. There was never a break in the weather. It rained continuously. Michael Masi was trying to look for a gap in the weather. The gap never came. And then he sent the drivers out in worse conditions. Of course, they were behind the safety car, but still quite dangerous. Of course, he's got a very tough job being a race director, but you've got to be ready for any situation as a race director. Would this happen under Charlie Whiting? That's what I want to ask also. He worried me quite a lot during the Spa weekends. Indecisive, not making ruthless calls. At times he didn't know the rules. Talking to the teams on the radio, he came across as very nervous, edgy. And then to allow Sergio Perez back in the race, for me, that was the icing on the cake. I mean, Sergio Perez makes a mistake, go into the grid, yet he's allowed to come back and race. That is wrong at the highest level. Perez made the mistake, he should have been out the race. Of course, it didn't matter because he didn't score points anyway, but he should have never been allowed back in the race. No chance. I mean, if we started the race as normal, there would have been no chance they would have fixed the damage. It's only because we had massive delays that they fixed. Horror Spa weekend for Michael Masi. Of course, he's got a very tough job. I feel sorry for him, but we give an honest opinion here, and I don't like what I saw yesterday. Made a mockery of the sport, amateurish, not ruthless enough. It was poor. And then, honestly, people are now saying that he sent them out for 2 laps, just so, basically, the fans, that counts as a race, so the fans won't get refunded. If that is true, that is absolutely disgraceful, and he should be sacked on the spot, if that is true. But that is only rumours. But the conditions were worse than before, so, yeah. In hindsight, the race should have just been cancelled. Of course, we all want to go racing. We all want to see action. But it just wasn't safe yesterday to do so. There was never a break in the weather. So we start the race. We're meant to start at 2 o'clock UK time. And it got delayed straight away. For me, we could have easily gone behind the safety car, done 2 laps, get a feel for the conditions. If it wasn't right, come back in. But it was horrible. It was delayed massively. Then we're running a clock down. The clock stops. Then we're having 5-minute weather reviews. I mean, as if the weather's going to change in 5 minutes. Undecisive, can't make ruthless calls, Michael Masi. And every time the teams talked to him, we had Red Bull, we had Mercedes, McLaren, Ferrari talking to Masi. He was nervous explaining, he gave me the impression that he was very nervous and he didn't know the rules because there was massive confusion what lap we were on. Were we on lap 43 or were we lap 39? No one seemed to know the rules. And for the race director not to know the rules is staggering. Absolutely staggering. I mean, for me, we did a lap behind the safety car as a formation lap. Then we did 1 lap. So for me, there was 43 laps left. But apparently there was 39 left. Because the other laps counted, which, yeah. And to let Sergio Perez race, I think that was wrong. That shouldn't have been allowed. Perez made the mistake, so he shouldn't have been allowed back in the race. Yeah, we delayed massively. I think we could have gone out at 2 o'clock, done 2 laps, come back in. Did not seem, just didn't seem decisive to know the rules. It was a horrible day for Masi. Then he got interviewed by Sky Sports, and he's twitching. He's nervous all the time, like this, like very fidgety kind of thing. Yeah, he's in control of everyone yesterday. The teams, the mechanics, the spectators, the marshals, everyone watching on TV, everyone at the track, and he can't make a ruthless call. He's just delaying. Oh, we'll check the weather in 5 minutes, as if it's going to get better in 5 minutes. And he came out and said there was a gap in the weather. There was never a gap in the weather. It rained continuously from 2 o'clock till the end of the race. And then the drivers went out. Now, Lewis Hamilton has said the drivers went out to do 2 laps so they don't have to give the fans a refund. Now, if that is true, I mean, there's no question. If you actually look, the first time they went out, the conditions were much worse when they went out a second time. They said there was a break in the weather. There was never a break in the weather. It rained continuously. So Charlie Whiting, God rest his soul, he's no longer with us. Would that happen under his guidance? I don't know. I think the drivers need a strong word with Michael Masi. It was a bad day for the sport. Made the sport look amateurish, look like a joke. Yeah, should he resign from his position? I don't know where I stand on this one. He had an awful day yesterday, did Masi. And we've covered it. Indecisive, couldn't make a decision, keeping everyone waiting. And yeah, he doesn't strike me as the most confident guy in what he's saying to the teams. Like Perez, for example, should not have been allowed back in the race. Then we've got a clock counting down, the 3-hour clock. It got stopped. And then when they actually went for their 2 laps, it was always the case that they were going to do 2 laps to get a race classification, half points, come back in the pits, red flag it. And then still, even then, he waited like 10-15 minutes before he said, okay, that's the result. So yeah, a horrible day all round. Comment down below your thoughts. Would love to know. Should the race director, Michael Masi, resign? I do have some words from him. After a rain-delayed Spa lasted just a handful of laps, race director Masi said he and his team tried to get the race running, but the weather got the better of us. He did try to get the race running, but there was never a gap in the weather, so I'm not hearing there was a gap in the weather. There wasn't. Like, it was continuous, the rain. Yeah, the scheduled start at 3 o'clock local time was delayed 25 minutes. So I'm saying they could have gone for 2 exploratory laps, and if you need a red flag it, they could have done so. So I feel that was an unnecessary delay to start with. Masi said it had been a long old day. That's the understatement of the year. Everyone waiting, fans, mechanics, drivers, everyone piss wet through. Actually, we've seen the worst of the weather today. The conditions have not been great all weekend. We had patches where we could get activity done. That's a statement I don't agree with at all. There was no break in the weather. As to why the drivers were brought out for a final few laps behind the safety car in the early evening, Masi said there was a slight break in conditions. There was no slight break in conditions. It was still raining when they went back out. So basically, he sent the drivers back out in more dangerous conditions. And that's why I feel his post, his job, whatever you want to call it, should be called into question, because he sent 20 drivers out there in more dangerous conditions than before. It was to see what the conditions were like. Well, They weren't improving, were they? Yeah. And that's another thing. As soon as that call came, there was only 10 minutes, so there was a massive scramble for the drivers to get in their cars, etc. They saw that the window and they saw that the window and could see exactly what we were trying to do. Find that weather window. Asked if it was possible to race on Monday. No. Marshals, everyone associated with Formula One. Just trying to work out any more. Statement from Formula One following the significant weather disruption for the 2021 Spa Grand Prix. The FIA, Formula One are disappointed for all fans at the track and at home that today's race could not go the distance. The decision was safety, of course, but the weather conditions were just not holding up. So the main title of this, what I'm reading, we did the best we could, but the weather got the better of us, says Masi. Yeah, I'd like to know people's thoughts on Michael Masi as a race director. He doesn't give me the most confidence. And to send the drivers out in worse conditions was quite alarming. Comment down below your thoughts on this. Yeah, I think I'll bring this out on Tuesday. Yeah. I think he should be under review for the rest of the season, Michael Masi. A horrible day for Michael Masi. Wow. Comment down below your thoughts. Would really like to know your thoughts on the race director. Get involved. Adios.